Hello, good morning. My name is Michael Lysian, and this particular video it's a promised video to those of my subscribers and maybe people who've asked me to do a video using my strategy for trading crash and boom, you know, and then do a video for trading V75, that is volatility 75 and Step. So this video is coming in handy for the sake of that request, and because I had said I was going to do that. Now the same settings and of course the same strategy, let's say the same setup rather, we use for trading boom and crash is the same we use for trading V75. It's just that there's a little tweak, there's a little thing you must do to be able to get it right with V75. Let me make this point very clear. I don't usually trade V75, not because it doesn't work. Like I've always said before, I want fast money, I want quick action, and volatility 75. I will use V75 for short. It's very volatile, we all know that, and the spread is massive, so I don't usually trade V75. That doesn't mean I don't have an understanding of how it works. Of course I do. And so this video is for those persons who still find it difficult to trade boom and crash. Boom and crash, in all fairness, is not difficult to trade. It's just that maybe, just maybe, you don't have interest, but maybe you have a lot of concern or like for V75, then this video is for you. Okay. However, I still want to chip in here that mentorship is still open for anybody, however, who is interested in learning how to trade boom and crash. That's where my specialty is. However, so let's get to talk about V75. Okay, so I'm going to say a few things about volatility 75. So let's get started. This is the V75 screen. If you check, the settings are still the same for crash and boom, but the application is different. Now I want to say this very carefully, and I want you to listen. When you're trading an asset, a currency, or whatever you're trading, there are three important things that makes you a trader. Number one, as far as the technicality is concerned, number one is the setup. Number two is the interpretation of that setup. And number three is the application of that setup. Okay? So the setup has to do with what makes up that strategy. The combination of price action, moving averages, indicators, and all of that. And then how do you interpret them? Because every moving average, every indicator has a role it plays. So the question is, do you know the role this particular moving average or averages plays? So when you're able to interpret that, that's a long way to go. It will help you. And then the application, how do you apply it, however? So you see, somebody can have the same setup but does not know how to apply it, or may be able to, or maybe use it differently. So it's very important, and I want you to take note of that. Okay, so the setup is important, the interpretation is important, and then how you apply it is important. So let's get to talk about V75. Right, first and foremost, there are basic checklists, and I want you to follow me carefully. Okay, so we go here. Now, if you must trade V75 and Step indices, you have to adhere to the following instructions. Okay. Excuse me. Number one, be mindful of the DTD. What is DTD? DTD means dominant trend direction. In short, it means major trend. Dominant. We mean dominant. Which one is the strongest? Do we have a more buying situation, or do we have a more selling situation? Right? So, or rather, a selling structure, a buying structure. So we are talking about DTD. that dominant trend direction. So you have to be mindful of that, and that's the very first thing you need to check. So, and you have to use higher time frame, maybe from H1 to H4 to daily. I'm going to show you in the chart how it works. Okay. Number two, make use of seeable support and resistance on higher time frame as entry gauge points on smaller time frame. I'll explain this in the chart, of course. So support and resistance are not out of the equation. You have to, the one that you can see, of course, we have invisible support and resistance. So we also have visible, that is seeable, the one you can see. So you have to do that. I'm going to show you how you do all of that. Then number three, you make use of lower time frame for entry. Very critical to avoid drawdown and wipe out of small equity. Okay, it's very okay if you have small equity, you can trade V75. Okay, but then if your entry is, you're making an entry as if you're a swing trader, all right, so it's gonna wipe out. And that's why the crux, the key point of this strategy is the entry point. Number four, keep your eyes on the stochastic. There should be a stochastic and the RSI1 relationship. I'm going to talk more about this. So keep your eyes on the stochastic cross in H1 for retracement and reversal signs. I'm going to show you this. Number four is very critical. So you have to put your eyes on the stochastic. Then let's get down to work. So what does it mean? First and foremost, I'll be working with this and the chart so that you'll be able to follow me carefully. Please rewatch this video as many times as possible until you get it. And you're free to ask questions in the comment section of this channel. Okay, for clarity, you can as well join the mentorship group if you care, if you want to. Now let's get back to work. The first thing I want to say is this. Like I said, you must, keep your eye on make use of seeable support and resistance, the one you can see. So you have to go to maybe H4, try to find if you can find a seeable support and resistance, because those are trigger points. So, and then a few other stuff. Now I'm going to try to draw something. We had a very long support here. We had a very strong support here. The support there formed a consolidated kind of market structure. Now, so we had that as support. We also had this point as resistance. The question is, why are we drawing this thing? Because it will help us in our entries as we make progress. Okay, so all these things are important. You have to draw both past support and then resistance as much as you can. Very important. And then I'm going to show you a few things, of course, so that you get to see. So please do not, however, you have to look at the support and resistance. Of course, very important. You have to bring in the ideology of price action. It's important. So let's assume for now that is just basically the support we can see that is reasonable. Other one, we see have other support and resistance like here, but it's not. It's very chubby around that zone. We can call that another resistance because actually it formed a consolidated kind of a range. Okay, but that is not the most important thing. Okay, so we can try to maybe extend this here because this is where this particular one touched and went back. So if you look at it, there'll be a lot of rejections around that zone and all of that. So let us look at something. So we've been able to establish that we have some visible support and resistance. Okay, remember you can use a plain screen to do this, but since I trade both with the use of indicator and of course price action and all that, so for me the screen is perfect for me, no problem. Okay, so let's continue. So I've been able to spot a few necessary support. The one I see, of course, there are ones you will not see, but then we are going to avoid that. Remember, this is not crash and burn, this is V75. So having done that, the next thing that is important is let's get to H1. Okay, when we get to H1, there's some other support and resistance you can find. So I'm going to draw them again. Here there is a kind of support and around that zone, okay. And then there is some other this resistance here. Okay, there is resistance there. Okay, so we have something like that. So they may not be completely perfect, but something like that will help. All right, so we have something like that where you have multiple rejections, like what you have here, 1 2 3. Okay, so remember that. Now remember, if you watch my videos, the same principle of trend of trend reversal, it still applies. Now, the power of the cross is very important. It is something that works for everything tradable, the cross. So let us look at a few things. First and foremost, there was a cross of the red and the blue, giving us a sell trend. And then there is a kind of, I'm going to draw a few things. Remember, this is V75. Maybe we may not have drawn all this, if we're doing crash and burn. It's still very important, okay? So in a way, we have a kind of trend line. Here was like a false breakout, so the trend line is respected. So we have a situation where we have the cross, and ever since that time there have not been any counter cross. If you check on each one, there was a cross of the red and the blue, so it gave us a sell trend. Don't forget also the power of the 48 SMA. These things are very important. I don't need to emphasize this, so you have to watch my previous videos on crash and burn, because the same principle applies. The essence of this is to teach you the trick on how to trade V75 using the same strategy. So do not overlook the concept of the 48. The 48 SMA is the yellow moving average. If you see, it has anchored, all the candles are formed below it. So we are still, as far as this is concerned, we have a sell trend, okay? So the sell trend will likely continue, even if there may be a little push up, but the sell trend will continue. I'm going to show you something. All of these are important. Of course, this is the basic analysis somebody must do. Okay, you draw trend lines where necessary, you keep your eye on the moving averages crosses. Very, very important. I did not put it in the checklist, very simple. Okay, I think I did. It was captured in the checklist. Let's go back there and then we'll come back. Now, okay, let me see. Excuse me, let me see. Okay, yes. Now, point 1 and 2 is to understand DTD and support and resistance. What I call DTD is the dominant trend. Dominant trend can start from H1, at least the one that is dominating for that period of time. You can find a dominant trend using H1, for instance. You can use H4 also. You can also use daily, depending on the structure at the time. Sometimes it may be difficult for you to see a clear structure using daily. Yes. Sometimes you may not be able to see it early enough, so you can see a clearer picture using H1. You can also see a clearer picture using H1. It depends. So that means what I'm trying to say is that you have to go through this time frame, H1, H4, and daily. If H1 tells you that, look, a sell trend is starting, then work with H1 for the meantime until the picture is clear in in H4. If you go to H1, it's not clear, look at H4. H4 will tell you something, either using support or resistance or using moving average crosses. And then also use daily. Now, you have to be flexible when you're trading, okay? So you have to look at all these things. These things are normal, the important thing. But then this will not stop you from still making profit where necessary. So points 1 and 2 is to understand DTD. And DTD is simple. Same principle that I've taught in crash and burn, where if there's an MA cross, and then like in the case of, let's go back to the chart, like in this case, you see now the 48 SMA is above the candles, so the candles are below it, so there is a complete change of trend. So we may have more sales. Okay, I'm going to tell you reasons why we're going to have more sales in V75 now. Just a little buy up, a little push up, and then we're going to have more sales. When I come, I'm going to talk about that. So now the next thing is we come back to, so for this to be well taken care of, you have to look out for the crosses of the moving average. Remember, to get DTD, you have to check if they're moving, if the red, that is the 14, the 10 moving average, which is the red one, has crossed over the blue, the 22 EM. When that happens from H1 and the candles are below the cross, like in this case, you see the candles are below and the cross, the moving average is above. So we have a downtrend situation, right? Okay, so this mostly we did not MTT H1, and then to crown it all, then there is also an anchorage in the sense that there is a candle crossing over. Let me try to see if I can get these things for us. Let's assume that we have, okay, look at this. Now look at this. This is the 48 moving average. Okay, so there is an anchorage. So these are candles forming below it. So yes, you may not make an entry by just looking at this. So we'll talk about the sharp entry I've been talking about. So the most important thing is for you to understand DTD. Okay, from the way it looks like, it looks like we're going to have more sell. Because general assumption is fine. You need to have at least the background knowledge of that. Very, very important. So when that is done and is established, okay, and you'll be able to check that out, the next thing you will have to do is to do this, is to get to the next point. Okay, I need to put my phone on airplane mode because I didn't even check. Messages will start coming. So let me do that now. Yeah. Okay, so I think we are back now. So okay, so now you get to see the point where I'm talking about DTD. So it's clear. So you have to learn how to draw trend lines and then all of that. So you mark those important points. It is important. Now there's something else I want to point to you. So let's get back there. So Point 1 and 2 is to understand DTD and support and resistance, which you have drawn. For this to be well taken care of, you have to look out for the crosses of the moving average from H1 to daily, and also look out for the support and resistance zones. Clear. So point 3 is for entry. Okay. So point 3 is for entry. Before I talk about point 3, let me look at point 4 first, because point 3 should be the last thing. That is, the entry should be the last thing. So, but let's look at point 4, because this point 4 is very important. I told you earlier that is critical. So now look at what point 4 is saying. Point 4 is about the stock crossing H1. Listen, this is the crux of it. Now for those of you who like to scalp, this is the advantage. Point 4 is about the stock cross in H1. There should be a landing relationship between the H1 stock cross at 10. Listen, the H1 stock cross at 10, talking about the stochastic oscillator now, at 10, with RSI1 entry of H1 at 10 also for a buy. So which means there must be 10 in H1 stock cross, and then when you come to RSI1 in 1 minute, it must also be at 10 for you to engage a buy. I'm going to show you. So the first thing that must give you that move is H1. That is the stock cross in H1, and vice versa, right? So let's get to how that works. Now, if you check carefully, you will discover here that there is a, oh God, this is amazing. Look at this. There is a stock cross at 10. So I want to tell you how you would not have, how this buy here would have been captured very easily. How you would have scalped that buy, even if the trend is a sell. Okay, so you can do both buy and selling of V75 at long interval and at short interval. So for those that want to scalp, look, put your eye on the stochastic. There should be a landing relationship. Well, for those that want to do long term, I'm going to show you what to do. But then look at that. There was a cross, and this cross is important. This cross signifies either a retracement or a reversal, depending on where the cross takes place. Like in this case, it was just a retracement. Then the sell continues. Okay, so this is not a reversal. This is what? A retracement, because the sell is still intact and the sell will continue. But what if you were selling, and then how would you have known that a reversal, or sorry, a retracement, a sharp retracement is coming? So you know that I should take out my profit and maybe make another entry from the top or the bottom, depending on what you're trading or where you were trading. So look at this. So as soon as there is a stock cross at 10, the thing began to buy. It's normal. This applies with everything, including crash and boom, for those who understand very well. Now, but what do you do? So how would you have known that this thing is going to buy? Of course, when there is a stock cross on H1, there will be a buy. But the point is, how do you know the entry? So this is where I want to say. Now look at what I want to show you now. This entry, this thing applies with everything. Now I'm going to draw a line. Look at something. I'm going to draw a line. Look at something clearly. The line is at 489595. 489595. Look at that. I want to show you how you know. So the first thing you do is as soon as you notice that this where is it? You notice that the both stochastic are at 10 and there is a cross. It will not move immediately. There is something you need to go and check. That's why I said there must be a landing relationship. Look at this. There must be made a mistake. There must be a landing relationship between the stock cross at 10. Then it must relate with RSI1 entry, which means when the stock cross is at 10, RSI1 in M1 must be at 10 for you to buy. So how do you do that? Now look at it. So remember that I have drawn a line, okay, a horizontal line that is at the price of 489595. Now, so what happens? I will come to M1 now. When I come to M1, what I'm looking for is to look for that line. You see? Look at the line. Now, let me show you what I was trying to show you. Look at this. You see that? So this is where the line is. So I did not come to M1 to wait. My first trigger is H1. So I've seen a cross. The H1 tells me that, look, there's going to be a cross. You may not be able to meet it on time. So as soon as you notice that they are about crossing on H1, don't make a sell. Don't make a buy yet. Just switch to M1 and come to RSI1. When you come to RSI1, if the RSI, the moving average inside the RSI1, which is 5, okay, is at 10, like in this case, this is where you would have made an entry. You see, this principle applies to everything I would have talked about as far as V75 is concerned. Listen, forget the many grammar I'm speaking. This is not complicated at all. So what you do is look at that. Now look at that place. Ever since that time, it hasn't come down again. It's selling. And let me show you something very quickly. It's selling. Now look at this. Hear me clearly. So you got that, you scalp this position, this buy. If you use a good lot, you know what that means. So from that time, there've not been any time it came down again. So it's at top. Remember that the DTD, however, is a sell. So do you make the sell just because DTD is a sell? No. Another important thing is you make an entry also. Let's go back. Now, let's look at point 4. We're coming back to entry, but look at point 4. Point 4 is there should be a landing relationship between the H1 stock cross. So the relationship, like I've showed you, has occurred. And that's why we had a buy. Now, look at for a sell. Where did I stop? Too many comments here. Or an H1 stock cross at 90. Or H1 stock cross at 90 with RSI1 entry of M1 at 90 for a sell. Very important. Now, look at this. Look at this. Let's go to H1. Unfortunately, in this case, we don't have a stock cross in H1 at 90. Why did I say that? Look at this. We don't have, this is still going. The both of them is still going. So if we have a cross here, like here, then we also go to RSI1 under M1 and we find this at 90, just like what I showed you now. Then we can comfortably sell it. Okay? We can comfortably sell. Do you understand what I'm saying now? Good. So because of this, we will not be able to sell immediately, except we want to swing and allow some drawdown. Let me see. You see, as far as the mount is open like this, the stochastic mount is open like this, there is a possibility that it's going to still, go up, maybe to touch that line again, so that this thing can at least cough, for a cross before it begins to come down. So you can watch out after the video for this move. If you continue to sell down, there's no problem at all. You did not lose anything. It's important to wait for confirmation of this checklist for this entry so that you can do it well and you don't allow your money to get drained out. So that is how this thing works. Do you understand what I'm saying now? So that is how it works. So in order not to complicate this whole thing for you, go over the checklist. First and foremost, a very quick one, be mindful of the DTD. When we're looking at DTD, you have to look at the moving average cross, which I've talked about in my previous videos. You can go through my videos again, it will help you. And then make use of seeable support and resistance. Keep your eyes on the stochastic cross in H1 for immediate retracement or reversal sign, very important. Then you look at entry. Let me talk about entry very well now. Now, let's try to go back to history. Let's go back in time. Now, look at this. I need to let you guys know this. I think I've said this in one of my videos. Anytime you find this in any asset, you see what I just drew now? Where the black 200 EMA crosses over the red and the blue. Oh, goodness. When that happens, just know that you have a long ride to the top. In any asset, you can backtest what I'm saying to you. So you can backtest. So without being told, if you see this happening in H1, it means you have a long buy upwards. If you see it happening in H4, a very longer buy. In daily, a longer buy. The same thing applies with whatever you're trading. You can go and check what is happening with, I'm going to show you with 1000, with which other one? Okay, so I'll just make a few predictions before the end of the video, or a few analysis. So this is the power of the cross. So the cross can help you to determine dominant trend, where the market is going to on a longer time, or on a large frame. So when you do that, your issue will be, where do I make entry? Never make an entry. For example, you see this market is actually buying, but you notice there were a lot of rejections. There were a lot of candles rejections as it goes, bullish. Look at this. I'm talking about this. There were a lot of candle rejections going down and forth. So those were giving you entries. But you just make an entry. If you have a small account, a little pushback can take you a huge negative, and will, not because you will not get into profit, but it will work on your emotion. It will make you begin to think that, I don't think I can hold. Before you know, you close, come back after an hour, they think it's in serious profit if you had waited. So the thing is, your entry should be very important. So V75 is not like crash 1000 or crash 500. Your entry is very important in V75. So don't enter too early and don't enter very late. So how do you avoid that? Is what I've just explained. Look, okay, let us use what did I say? M1. So when you find, use 1 minute for your entry. Now, why is this important? Look at this. Even if at this point, you will discover that whenever take notes, I did not mention this. Let me mention it here. I think I'm going to edit it in the checklist. Zoom level 3. Please, zoom level 3. Don't do zoom level 1, zoom level 2. It's zoom level 3. The normal zoom level we use for trading crash and boom, or for crash and boom analysis. And maybe if you know about EEP, we use level 3. Okay? So, normal level 3, as soon as this thing touches 90, right, it's going to reject. It's going to be a sell in a way. But even if this is a strong bullish momentum, if it touches here, it's just going to react a little and keep shooting up, just to create an allowance and keep going up. Okay, so that's why I said from the beginning, understand DTD, dominant trend direction. It's important. When you have established that, the rest will be history. So this is how to trade V75, and that is basically how this thing works. Let's look at what happens with 1000, so that you understand the power of the cross I talked about earlier. The cross is important. It gives you an idea of where the market is going to. Let's look at weekly. You see here why this thing is still selling. Some of us were trapped. Some persons were trapped. Why this thing is still selling? Simply because of this cross. That's why this thing is selling. Can you imagine a cross happening in weekly? The sell is massive. You can't help it. They may not be, they may be spikes, but the major, the DTD in this case is a downtrend. And don't be surprised, it's going to sell and still keep selling until we have a very suitable reversal. So that is that. Now let's go to crash 1000. Let me show you something. In crash 1000, let's come to weekly daily. You see, something about crash 1000 is in my mentorship group, I had said it's going to sell for a week plus or so. That will still happen if and only if this thing happens. If the blue crosses over the black, you see, it's still far from each other. So this may happen later in the week or even next week. But anytime this black crosses over the blue, then we have a long way. It's going to break this kind of range and go down. So we're going to be looking. There are two reasons why I feel it will still happen. If I come to daily, there's also a kind of possibility, although it may not happen immediately, that the blue here, if you check, this is what happened with Boom 1000 at a long time ago. So you notice that the blue here is likely going to cross over the red maybe in the future time. So when that happens, we're going to have this. Remember that this is already a kind of divergence. Okay, so this is like it's already breaking this trend line from what it's saying. So we may have, and look at where this thing is. So we have a long way down. So my analysis eventually is that we're going to have a long way down. So get ready to make money. So this is what it is. Analysis should not be a difficult thing. Just use your eye and be flexible. Remember that for swing traders, you may decide to enter the trade and leave because you have a very big equity. But if you don't do that. Trade at a smaller time frame pace. So the essence of this was for V75. Let's quickly look at step very quickly. Let's look at step. Let's look at step. I'm not able to capture step because I had to freeze this. But please, in summary, okay, whatever I've said about step, I've said is the same thing. It applies. Whatever I've said about V75 applies to step exactly. Exactly. Now look at something about step. It's the same thing, the same entry, just like I would have used step to do my explanation. So if you can trade V75, you can trade step. The same thing. The cross is important. I just want to show you a few things. There was a cross here on H4, and ever since that time, there's not been any other cross, and that's why we had this buy. Okay. All right. Somebody that is trading step, I told the person buy step for a while, and the step when the person was buying, when I told the person to buy step was around here. Step was around here and then got here. So this is pretty simple. So just use the same method for what I just explained in V75 to trade step. You don't have a problem. Remember the cross, the 48, everything I have said. This thing remains the same. The only difference in what I've said here and what I've said in my previous videos is entry. In crash and boom, I said use M5 for entry, right? In V75 and step, I say use M1. RSI1, use M1 for entry. So go over the video and I wish you well. My job here is to ensure that you succeed in your training journey. We may not always get it all the time. We may not always have this 100% of the time. Sometimes the market can be manipulated. Our emotions can manipulate our thinking. Our emotions can manipulate our decision. And of course, we can make mistakes, but don't give up because your analysis got wrong. I, for myself, I make mistakes too. So we're only trying to do our best. Yes, I've been training for quite a while now. So the thing is, do your best, okay, to gain some level of mastery. I'm still offering mentorship for a lot of persons who have interest in trading under guidance, who wants your questions answered, and then who wants, to be followed up, and then most likely to be prayed for too. Because for me, trading is not just about the chart, the technicality. It's spiritual too. And I pray God will help you and help all of us in the trading journey. So, I wish you well. So for exit, let's just talk about exit briefly. I will do another video strictly on exit, and maybe when I see your questions, I'll be able to answer some questions in the next video. So if you were selling based on the sell checklist, when the buy checklist surfaces, quits, and vice versa. And then somebody will say, what if I want to swing my trade? I'll do a video for swinging. This is basically for scalping and also for entry. And yeah, so I'm going to do a video, God willing, for swinging, how you can swing. But remember that if you understand what I just said now, you can swing the trade if you want, if you know what you're doing. If you want to swing, use a higher time frame. If I'm using H1, if you want to swing, use H4. Try to make this thing happen in your H4, or try to see it happen in your H4. Then you use it. So I'm going to really talk about exit later. I didn't want the video to be too long. Unfortunately, it's already too long. So please go through the checklist. Go through the checklist carefully, and then you can write them down, and then you follow. You can. There will be a link to mentorship inquiry for those who want to run mentorship. All right, there are different group for different categories of people, so you can be part of the mentorship, and then I'll be able to guide you closely, and I'll be able to help you. But I want to let you know that V75 is tradable. This can be overcome. You can make profit from it, and of course, crash and boom. My specialty is crash and boom, not because crash and boom is easy. It's also difficult, but if you learn it and follow due process, you can make progress with it. God bless you. I look forward to seeing you in the mentorship community. Once again, my name is Michael Essien, and I'm signing off. Cheers.